間宮久子様が亡くなった。宴はまだ、すなわち狼はまだ。
久雪、何が。
Mako, I'm actually a wolf. Yeah, really. Really. I haven't been more honest since I came to Yasumizu. The next moment. Sorry for not telling you. Yeah, sorry. I patted her back and had her hide behind me. 2 votes. A perfect split.
私もまた情に流されたのかも。非情であるべき読み意味の宴で名子のあどけなさに不妻子様の人当たり、そうかもしれないと知りながら、私どものもはやこれまでくくられろという時はお呼びください。さようなら。
Having said all that she had to, she left and not turning once.
りっちゃんも諦めちゃった。
You won't?
宴の勝ち負けとかは初めっからどうでもいいんだ、ぶっちゃけ。そうでなきゃ野里家の嫡男様を未だにやってるし。
Good
ハッ
point.
サンさ、死んでよ。
Nope.
メイコちゃんさ、ハッサン。
I won't.
悪い人。
そっか、そっか。なんでハルちゃんを死なせたのさ。僕さ、ハルちゃんのこと最後まで守ってくれるんなら、ハルちゃんがさ、面倒な人間全部ぶっ壊してここを逃げてくってそれが死に目に見られればいいかなって、僕超楽しみにしてたんだよ。僕の純情返してよ。ハッサンもさ、知ってハルちゃんの仮病のこと。
Yeah.
これはね、僕らだけの秘密だ。多分宴とは全然関係ない話だから気にしないで寝るといい。
I knew it. That was God was something she created. You knew about that clothing too, right?
だって小学校の時に3人で一緒に作ったもん。大きくなったんだから作り直せばいいのにさ。エッチすぎるぞ。
You can say that again. I'd expect something like that.
いいんだ。
If she'd come back to her senses at least once back then, she had never tolerated her peril.
我は8年前くくられ黄泉に戻されるところを霧に迷いし、この娘の器に落ち戻ることができたのじゃ。
If God was actually the primary personality, it had never taken my side back then. She had never played along with Haru-chan's desire to save me by sacrificing herself. Basically, she could always switch between God and Haru. All the strange powers displayed by Haru were either powers she had already had, or products of her imagination, a fabrication. The mind-reading thing was just the product of her delusions. It just happened that she had gotten things right. That was the only
ハルちゃん
possibility.
はハッサンに乗り換えた。ヤッスンがまだ知恵姉のこと好きだって知ってからハッサンに乗り換えた。
You're just saying whatever you want
僕
now.
はハルちゃんのそばにずっといた。適当じゃない。
You, a person who's uninterested in others?
ハッサンの意地はそうだな。ハルちゃんはたまたま狼になった好きだったか、あるいはもっと別の特別な心か。僕には分からんけど、そういうのになったのかもね。
He truly had a talent for finding the truth without
じゃあさ、
comprehending it.
なおさらハルちゃんの落とし前、ハッサンはどうつけるの？
Nothing.
へえ、すっげえ。
How about you make yourself clear then?
何をさ。
If you didn't vote for Haru, she might have been able to survive. Even so, you voted for her. How do you look at it? The others is oftentimes a twisted reflection of your own feelings. You sure you didn't kill her because you were angry that she didn't choose you?
ああああああ、なるほど。そういうのも成立。ハッサンさ、僕らのハルちゃんじゃなくなるなら僕が壊しちゃおうって思ったら、それってやっぱ桔梗の振る舞い？
Nope, it's the normal, everyday feeling called
そっ
jealousy.
か。僕
I can't say I actually know what you thought that and felt.
お花
Adults have to act normal even when there's hard or bad things
大
around
人
Mako.
大変。
適当言われてかわいそうだよ、メイコちゃん。
I was telling you the truth though. So what now? Want a
絶
feast?
対負けるんだよね。
Mako, wanna beat him up? Heard her Mochi? It was
ハ
a
ッ
yes.
サンさ、賭けとかしない？
What
じゃんけ
kind?
んで負けた方が死ぬ。
Oh, that's
いい
straightforward.
じゃん。
I'm down.
せーの。
Rock, paper. He put up his thumb and stuck out his index finger, creating a finger gun on Criminal. I, on the other hand, took out Chimi's shotgun from my sleeve.
そりゃ勝てないな。
Thanks for cooperating. Mochi. Sketchy bets were my thing. Even a genius like you could win against an adult villain. Sorry, Mako. Did that surprise you?
悪い人やっつけた。
Whoa, man. Just what kind of upbringing did she have?
お姉ちゃんもするの？
Not today.
明日は？
Yes.
メイコは？
The necessity to kill Mako. That case seemed likely. God had said that there were 3 gods. One was Great Lord Shinai. One was the old god who had an unpronounceable name, the Badger, posted on it. The last one was my enemy. If God lived within man, then perhaps if I killed Mako, I hadn't died once, I could escape this endless, misty hell for all I knew. But I didn't want to kill her. I'd be crossing a line even for me. Consciously or not, I'd set a line for myself and I didn't want anyone else to change it. Hmm?
まだ見当違いをされるか？悪党だな。
Huh? I tried to turn around, but I couldn't. The thing behind me was so scary I couldn't turn around.
何度申せばお気づきになるよ。神とは悪魔たちの悪いものですぞ。星吉の娘と通じて手間倒れになるまで神がするはずありますまい。
What is God?
人には決して殺せぬものよ。
I turned around.
目？
It was Mako, same as always. I couldn't believe that she was just laughing out loud.
さゆきさん、顔色悪い。
Yeah, maybe.
大丈夫？
Yeah, I think I need some water.
メイクおトイレ。
The dining hall felt like it had been abandoned 10 years ago. Even so, the water was still running. I wasn't all that thirsty, but I couldn't make it feel better, so I cupped some water in my palms.
逃れる術はない。
Huh? I jumped back, getting water all around me. Just now, on the surface of the water in my hands, there was a mirror above the sink. I looked right at it.
神からは逃れられませぬぞ。どうせなら我らのもとに下ってみられぬか。十里四方のケチな領地じゃが退屈はさせませぬぞ。好きに殺し、好きに欺き、好きに犯し、 山が再び手頃な娘を捕らえたらば貴様のお子を払
Ah, what did you do to me?
わからぬならおとなしゅう神の餌食になりませんどうやら頃合いか悪党だな面白き世に悪がいつまで持つのやら愉快が過ぎて房幸さん
I shook my head, chasing away the thing, the delusion clinging to my head. What is it? Her voice was shaking. Did she see a spider or something? I followed her outside. I was shocked. There was no better word for it. The first shock was caused by the fact the mist had cleared, a loop in the eastern sky. A total solar eclipse. No way, if there was such a celestial event today, I would have heard about it. This was just an eclipse. It probably had something to do with the unnatural, unreasonable, incomprehensible phenomena happening before me. Phenomena? That was too small of a word to describe it. Most of my surprise was about the monster. It spanned mountains. I pierced the clouds. It carved a valley with each step. It leveled forests. I lacked words to describe the scale of it. It dwarfed even the things in tokusatsu's shows or mecha anime. After all, it was still far away. It was beyond the mountain, beyond the cliff, beyond Saunanaga. It was walking. Its destination was the golden, no, unpleasant pale ring that used to be the sun. Even so, I looked up at it. It was thousands of meters tall. It was a monster that had legs of the size of the mountain. Even the terms of gigantic seemed to fall short. Naturally, I quickly understood that it was a monster that brings mythological levels of despair and destruction. Eiko was clinging to my leg. I brought her closer to me. Both of us were shaking. Fear. This is nothing but primal fear. Death was nothing in comparison. The fear we felt surpassed her main concepts like death. This was a fear of the world coming to an end. Once I realized that, I knew that humans, a part of the world, could do nothing against it. What? Suddenly I lost all sense of reality. There was some kind of fancy-looking thing in front of me. It was a large plush sheep. It was cute. It talked. But its voice wasn't cute. Yeah? The thing? Huh? I looked again, and strangely enough, the scene had lost all color. The monster's still there, walking slowly, covering kilometers with each step. But again, it didn't feel real anymore. The fear was gone too. I looked next to me. Miko was still frozen in fear. Again, it didn't feel real. In fact, my hands, my clothes, everything around me didn't feel real. This sensation was kind of familiar. Oh right, it's what I felt every time before dying. I'd felt this whenever my memories were engulfed in mist and before I looped. And I felt like the ship was familiar too. Oh, dialogue. Who are you? Yes, it does. Wait, what's sheep talking anyway? It's easier to accept the appearance of a monster that is that a talking sheep.
夢の中に切り取られてやがったんだ。俺はそういう話の専門家だ。だからここに来たはいいが、夢の主に見つからねえように身を隠すだけで精一杯だった。夢の中に直接干渉はできねえ。だが誰か一人の人間に力を貸すくらいはできた。それがてめえだ。
I see. Well, actually, that's too brief, so I only get the most basic parts, but what the hell?
理解できたのか。すげえな。つうか乗りツッコミする余裕があるとか、お前死にすぎて狂ったんじゃねえのか。
You're the one behind the looping?
そりゃ違う。死んで巻き戻るのは夢のせいだ。
The dream.
そうだ。俺はてめえが記憶を持っていけるように手伝ってやってるんだよ。
Oh, so that's how it was.
まずい。
Crap.
もう時間がない。おいてめえ、とりあえず続きは戻った。
You're telling me to die. No, I got a whole bunch of loaded
俺は
questions.
ほとんど何にも知らねえ。潜入後すぐ身動き取れなくなったからな。そこのガキが誰かも知らねえよ。てめえらが何をやってて、なんでお前がガンガン死にまくってんのかも知らねえ。そこはてめえが何とかするところだ。
That was so unreasonable, but so that's how it was. So the only thing you really know is that the time around Fujiyoshi keeps looping back. You don't know the mystery, incidents, or phenomena that happens in Fujiyoshi, but you know that the looping is caused by something here. That's why you're giving me memories of the previous loops to help me find the cause and the looping phenomena. But then the looping suddenly stopped. I didn't get to the heart of it, and the monster showed up. The abnormally reached the ending it desired, the demise of this country.
理解力柔軟すぎんだろ。てめえの脳みそはあんころ餅か何かか。
Now that was uncalled for.
最初のうちは夢はずっと循環していた。しかし異分子が取り込まれ、夢は奇妙に変容し始めた。てめえが来てからはもうぐちゃぐちゃで、結果がこれだ。
The dream changed because of me. Did this thing mean the fact that I'd used the looping to try out various options and solve a bunch of timelines?
中でどんなろくでもねえことしやがったんだ。
I couldn't deny that. I really was fucked up. This loop. But victory as a wolf brought about a giant monster that destroyed the country. That made next to no sense. That couldn't be it. I was missing something.
ここまでだ。時間切れだ。
Huh? What are you gonna do? The looping ended, didn't it?
言っただろうが、専門家だってよ。
What do you mean?
巻き戻りが起きていたところまで俺の力で巻き戻す。
That sounds so absurd. It seems
でき
impossible.
る。ただこれ一回きりだ。ここまで大きな介入があれば向こうは絶対異変に気づく。一度はバグだと思うかもしれんが、二度目はないぞ。絶対に他の夢使いの介入を疑うはずだ。そうなったら本当に終わりだ。俺は腕前じゃ奴より上だが、俺も夢に取り込まれて終わりだ。
Maybe all how they wanted
そう
it.
いうこった。じゃあいいな。ここ以外で解決策を探せ。
Basically, I had to prevent this outcome, gather info from the loops, and arrive at the truth, and do something about the dreamers that created the loop and called this monster. Wasn't this a story about taking care of some wolf? What happened to that?
よーし、来た来た。それじゃあ元気に
Wait,
羊が100万匹。
so the world ended, we came back, we're trying to do things differently, and and I am back with Chimi Zawa, and a new option has been unlocked for me to do stuff. So I'm just gonna go do it. I'm just gonna have a good time, and so we are meeting Chimi for the first time, and we'll see what happens. So I did just that. Given this was a mountain settlement, I'd expect some old wooden house, but she actually lived in an apartment back. It was too dark to get a good look at it. All I could see were the cheap looking walls like you'd expect from some old boarding house for students. Also, she lived on the second floor in room 202. I heard some raindrops as we were climbing the rusty stairs, but now it was really pouring. Between that and the darkness, the large tree right next to the building, it was nearly impossible to see what was going on outside. It felt like I was all alone in a world of nothing but the walls, the doors, and the fluorescent lamp above my head. It made me feel somewhat helpless. I distracted myself from that by imagining her changing. Eventually, the door opened. All smiles, she showed herself now wearing clothes that was kinda sport clothes. That was kinda exciting.
何にもないでしょ
Yep.
でも冷蔵庫の中はほら
Magnificent.
飲みますか
Hell yeah. Yeah, her place was empty. Really was empty. It was just a small room with a low table in the middle, a fridge near the door, and a large duffel bag deeper in. There were 2 old-looking bookshelves too, but they were completely empty. I wasn't bothered one bit though. Any girl's room was a wonderland to me.
じゃあ大変だった春明さんにお疲れ様
And I'll drink to you for helping me out. You're a real saint. We opened our cans, knocked them together, and downed them. Hey, it was actually good. The pleasant bitterness and the refreshing carbonation made for a good combo.
おいしいこのためだけに生きてる
Come on, you're too young to say that.
言い過ぎた愛や将来にもまだ絶望してません
You hear that? That's the sound of a job hunting. It's a coming here fast.
いややめてせっかくのビールがまずくなる
She laughed and took a huge sip. It was pretty clear she could hold her drink. That aside, something really bothered me. This might be a bit late for this, but can I ask you something?
何
Her cheeks were already red. Maybe she didn't handle her liquor as well as I thought. She had a well-featured face, and I didn't think it was wrong to consider her beautiful. Sure, her clothes were the least bit sexy, but I could tell she had some makeup on. To you, I'm just some stranger who says he's lost, right?
そうね
And you yourself, a young woman who invited that stranger into an enclosed space and started getting
お
drunk.
お
Don't you think this is dangerous?
うーん
She kept gulping the drink, even as she formulated a response. The very fact I could just watch her do that made this a pretty risky situation
あ
yet.
んまりないかな
But,
芹沢千恵美クイズ
yay!
問題ふと気づいたら低層が瀬戸際にもかかわらず芹沢千恵美は特に身の危険を感じないなぜでしょ
What a fun girl. This made me like her more, increasing the danger even further. Am I allowed to ask questions? Can I just assume that it's not because I look like a good guy?
う悪い人に見えるってわけじゃないけどまあなしかな女の子慣れしてそうだし
That's unintentional compliment showed that she really did see me as a potential danger. There are two types of answers to this. Either you expect nothing bad to happen, but wouldn't be bothered if it did, or you actually want something to happen.
ふむ
I can think of several situations for the former. For example, you're actually on the edge and don't care what happens. Or maybe you're just confident you can defend yourself. Maybe you know martial arts.
ああ、論理的。春明さん理系だね。
Well, I guess you could say that. For the later, if you intend for something to happen, then
例えば、私がエロエロですとか
wow, talk about not micing words. Mixing words.
酔っ払ってきたな。さて、他には何があるでしょう
Indeed, what other reason could a woman have to bring a stranger to her home? It would surely be something non-standard like, you want to use me somehow. For example, setting me up as an alibi. I could be useful to you by attesting that you are here.
ああ、ちゃっかり利用するわけだ。
Or maybe you're a serial killer who brought me here just to get me drunk and kill me.
はあ、ヤマンバ。いいね。ブッシュブッシュ殺しちゃう。
What kind of sound effect was that?
ちなみに、前提で出た2つのケースの他に、1つは、
I did.
私がとってもいい人で、春明さんを助けてあげたい一心だっていうケース。
Was it time for me to be ashamed of my filthy mind? But wait, is that really important enough to risk being
あ
assaulted?
あ、襲うって言っちゃったよ、この人。
I'm just talking in general, you know, the cliche scenario. She stopped talking, turned red. It was so cute. I thought that she was actually doing it on purpose. Man, was she drunk. And we were just on our second cans.
じゃあこういうのは止めないともっとひどいことになる。それはさすがに忍びないな、とか
Care to elaborate?
この辺りには怖い野生動物が出ます。明日にはこの人はズタズタに引き裂かれてしまうかもしれません。このまま見捨てたらとても寝覚めの悪い思いをするかもしれません。それな
I see, so you're balancing risk and goodwill. Didn't expect
想
that.
定外か。この人だいぶ悪い人なんじゃないかって気がしてきたな。
Huh? I do?
だって善意を選択肢に入れる前に殺人鬼とかアリバイとかエロエロとかさ。
You're the one who brought up the perf thing.
そうだったっけ？で、答えは？
Huh? We're not just messing around?
正解者には素敵なプレゼント。不正解者はブッシュブッシュ殺します。
Seriously? You're desperate, you need an alibi, you're a thirsty perv, you're guilty if you let me die. You'd feel all of them. At that moment, my head was flooded with information. I felt like my mind was crushed by a million sheep. Crap, why did I forget? Did my memories carry over in a weird way because the method from back then was weird? Well, then again, this wouldn't be the first time my memories didn't carry over properly. I should counted myself lucky for remembering it all. I had tons of things to think about. About the beast in the village, the giant monster, the dream enveloping Fujiyoshi, as well as the looping the sheep had told me about. But this wasn't the time to worry about that.
春明さんはどうしたのかな？
This girl. One time she, fearful of God, faced the wolves with me, eventually met on an awful end. Another time she was a cold-blooded wolf that silenced one of her own, then cornered her and tried to kill everyone. And last, she interfered with us wolves by, for whatever reason, killing herself on the first day of the feast. Her smile that night had been burning in my mind, continuing to torment me. Chimi Sarazawa. Hold on. I knew the reason why she'd done that. It's simple. She'd been dropping hints ever since the very start. They were more like slips of the tongue. Small and almost impossible to
お
notice.
ーい、気分悪くなったですか？こういうの嫌いだった？あはは、ごめん。ちょっと浮かれちゃったかな。
All of them.
え？
All of the options you named are correct. Yeah, there were wolves here in Fujiyoshi. Yeah, you were a real murderer. And correct me if I'm wrong, but before I came to Saranaga, you were about to saw off shotgun barrels. Preparing to kill people is something you want to hide, so you needed an alibi.
なんて。
You remember the previous loops?
急いだ方がいいよ。千恵美さんの気が変わらないうちにね。いや、だってあれが根性の別れになるかもしれなかったし、それならせめて色良い返事をしとこうかなとか。
That was weird. You said you agreed to go on a road trip with me because you were gonna die anyways, but the miss hadn't even showed up yet when I invited you. That means you knew the miss was about to arrive. She lost track of what she was supposed to know and not know. It happened to me too.
春明さんって絶対女のトラブルで逃げてきたんでしょ。
I doubt you figured out that I was dumped just because you were sharp. But if you have memories of the previous loops, it's only natural for you to know that I was dumped. I told you that to you myself.
一緒に遊んでよ。手を握ってよ。タンデムでずっと遠くまで連れてってよ。布団の中で一日中ギュッてしててよ。
The moment that confirmed it was when you came to me as a wolf and told me about your feelings. Back then I wasn't a bike rider, but a suicidal guy who'd arrived here through Kami Fujiyoshi. You'd have no reason to think that you could just hitch a bike ride with me. You know that the real abnormality here isn't the feast but the looping. It wouldn't make sense other. She suddenly screamed. In her hand, she held a familiar hunting knife. It didn't work. Dropping it all on her so suddenly was too much for her to handle. The regret dulled my mind, my vision sharpened, and I saw her slowly charge at me. I might have been used to death by now, but I didn't want it to be slow and painful. I used the time I was given to just close my eyes. An impact. I collapsed on my back. A sharp pain assaulted me. At least I thought it was going to, but it didn't. There was just a warm weight against my body. I slowly opened my eyes. Her face was brimming with intense emotion. As her eyes filled with tears, the hands with the knife went limp. The blade fell free.
私だけじゃなかったって。そんなのどうせ夢かなんかだ。そんでぬか喜びして目覚めたらぬか喜びで、しかも春明さんの顔でさ。
This isn't a dream. Well, to be clear though, it might be reduced to a dream eventually. This moment is real right now. And since we share memories, the dream it gives us, the moments we share, we will never be merely dreams.
春明さん、もう完全に非武装だしさ、首絞めたりもしないしさ、何にもしないから。すがって。
Yeah.
春明さん。
She clung to my chest and wailed. Emotions, tears, none of it was restrained. How many loops have you had?
100回超えてからは数え
It must have been hard.
なかった。
As I embraced her, crying without end, I felt something myself as well. This was a hell from which not even death could save you. Wandering through it all, alone, one couldn't help feeling frail and helpless. I spent most of my time here chasing after the mystery behind it all. As long as I had ideas to try, the mystery was both my greatest fear and fascination. But what if I ran out of ideas? What if I tried everything and I could think of only to discover there was no escape from this loop, and that I was a prisoner of it for eternity? My worst fear was a mystery without an answer. It took her almost an hour to calm down. She began talking. I wouldn't have minded if it was just if she just went to sleep, but the joy and excitement from finally finding someone who shared her experience probably wouldn't have let her. It's time to check some answers.
さっきのよくわかったね。確かにさっきバレルを切ってた。
In this timeline, I'm an outsider who ended up not participating in the feast, and you didn't have your guns, right? Is that because I interrupted you and made you leave the shotguns in
なんだ
Saranaga?
よ、もう。やっぱ探偵か何かか、春明さんは。
If I was, I wouldn't be relying on theories and assumptions like this. It's an evidence-based profession. That's why I needed to ask. Next question, are you a
違
murderer?
うよ。今回はまだ。少なくとも休みずに帰省するまでに人は殺してないよ。
But you had two guns, right?
それは純粋に肝臓じいちゃんの狩りに付き合いたかったから。最初はね。
She continued to talk. It was May of her third year in college. Time to go back job hunting. The job market in the state, it was most of the leads found on work sounded more like horror stories. Some couldn't find a job despite checking 100 places. Some went straight to exploitive businesses. Some had all the credit in the world, yet ended up working at the docks or something. Jimmy had no particular profession in mind, nor did she find any ideas at her seminar, so she was at a loss. Her situation was made even worse when her boyfriend left her. Huh? So you're like me.
うるさいな。
He was your second boyfriend, right? Why did he break up
細
with
か
you?
いとこ覚えてるし。なんか猟銃持ってる女子とか引くって。
That might have been weird from a normal man's perspective, but personally that just intrigued me. How long have you been dating?
ゴールデンウィーク頭に付き合い出して終わった直後くらいに別れた。
Ouch.
やっぱ殺そっかな。
In a way, the failed relationships and life in the city in general was starting to get her to her, so she started to consider moving back here after graduation, back to Fujiyoshi, a place where she supposedly hated.
嫌なことはしばらく離れてる間は忘れてたから。
She used job hunting as a pretext to take a short vacation. She returned here 2 days ago on Friday. She figured that refreshing her mind and body here would help her with the job search. The locals either celebrated nor disliked the fact that she came back. They just gave her a normal welcome. They hadn't changed. She, however, had.
昔は5時に起きて勉強してたんだけどさ。大学でぐうたら生活にすっかり慣れて、みんなと生活リズム合わなくなってて。MD のアダプタ忘れてさ。借りようにも誰も持ってなくて。ああ、田舎って不便だよな、とか。 お菓子買おうにもコンビニどころか店もないし、みんな質素にしてるからお酒飲むのも気が引けちゃうし。なんか期待してたんだろうね。やっぱ自分の居場所はここだったんだ。ないよね。半分捨てたような故郷に自分の都合でそんなん求めたって。なんかやっぱここも居場所じゃないんだなって思いながら寝て、起きたのが5月10日、昨日の朝。最初はそこに戻ってきてたんだ。
That was unexpected. I asked and found out something more. The point to which she looked back to had changed twice so far. The first time was the morning of May 10th. This return point stayed consistent for 57 times.
もちろん最初はただの日常として流したよ。そのままだらだら2日間過ごして、その後霧が出て、私初日にくくられたんだ。外から汚れを持ってき、最初の息が止まる感覚だけは今でも覚えてる。その後いきなり巻き戻って、でも同じように霧が出て、その後何度巻き戻って試しても何を言おうが行おうが4日目より後には行けなかった。へこんだよ。私はどうやってもそのくらいしか大事じゃないんだって。ごめん、分かってるよ。そんな感じ。でも57回死んだ頃にはもうそういうもんだって思うようになってた。まあ実際みんなにとってはそれで問題はなかったんだけどさ。何せ私が狼だったし。
The wolves back then were Chimi and Tay. With Chimi being easy to suspect and Tay not handling herself well, they just couldn't win the feast. Still, they successfully brutalized a few people before both of them got hanged. In the end, Chimi took the initiative and committed with her own two hands. It hadn't taken long for her to try and just kill everyone while breaking the rules. Her trial and error became a matter of who did I kill now and how.
その後変化があった。メイコちゃんが迷い込んできたの。
It happened a day after the first restart point. It was already 2 a.m. now, so it would be morning. The boring, meaningless day suddenly became a big deal. The reason for that was the lost girl who wandered in from the upstream. Takumi had told me that it wasn't uncommon for Sauranaga to bring corpses, but this was the first time I brought living human. Not just any living human, a lost girl of unknown origin. According to Chimi, if there was some terrible trouble in Yasumizu, they couldn't just call someone to inform them about it. Instead, there was an unspoken agreement that they would just bring it up while chatting with the driver of the truck that had brought food or supplies here once a week. They mentioned to the lost girl, since the driver was in touch with the Higuchis, and the village heads would know something about it too. If something was done about a problem they were told about, that was great, but if it wasn't, it meant that Kami Fujiyoshi didn't plan to get involved. They had tried to get help by phone once, but that got the truck driver to just not bring the supplies for a week, which was pretty messed up. The next supply ran would be Thursday, some time away, so they didn't know what to do with the girl. Tae-san screeched about chasing her out, but in the end, Reikako-san agreed to take her in. The problem was solved for anyone but Chimi in a way.
58回目にしていきなり現れた登場人物だったからね。なんだろうって思ったよ。繰り返し続ける夢に変化が生まれた。もしかしたら希望が見えたのかもって。やがて始まった宴では、加護の振り分けも大きく変わってた。匠兄ちゃんが蛇で、最初に明かそうとする流れが一緒だから、多分春明さんが知ってる流れと一緒。
Oh, so basically the timeline where I was alive but didn't participate was similar to the one where I just wasn't there at all. Still, she was human in the new timeline, and that change gave her hope, so she started experimenting again. It didn't take long for her to be in despair again.
匠兄ちゃんはだいたい早死にしたし、私はだいたい早めにくくられるか狼にやられることになった。一度だけおかしくなった香織さんが料理に毒を入れて、たまたま狼が死んで勝ったけど、勝って休みずを出て帰る深夜バスが霧に巻かれて、あんま覚えてないけど、多分事故ってそのまま後戻り。戻り先は日曜の朝。メイコちゃんが迷ってくるところが新たなルーチンになっただけ。結局糸口も見えなかった。
The morning of May 11th, it was the restarting point that she had went back to more often than any other. Overcome by despair, she started trying to challenge the feast's rules. She tried escaping the mist, surviving the corruption, after killing more than one in a day, etc. After dozens of tries, she concluded that there was no way to escape these laws. By that point, she killed each of the locals dozens of times.
もうさ、みんなの顔見るたびに、あの時どんな死体になったとか、あの時どんな断末魔だったとか、そんな映像がバンバン脳内に出てくるようになっちゃって、別に苦しかったわけじゃない。むしろ平気すぎた。むしろそれが現実なんじゃないかって思うようになってた。もうとっくにみんな死んでて読み人なんだって。狼の時に聞いた話が本当なんだって。そこからは投げやりプレイだったな。宴が始まった直後に全員を撃ち殺してみるとか、そういう絶対にクリアには繋がりそうにないことを試したり。ま、ダメだったね。どんなに頑張ってもくくられるか殺されるか、霧に巻かれてどうにかなって死ぬ。そうなるともう死に飽きちゃってさ。死ぬのはもちろん苦しいけど、退屈しのぎって言ったら、もうどんな新しい殺し方や死に方ができるかってことくらいになっちゃって。
The impossible deaths happening on repeat had warped her heart and
そんな
mind.
わけで、私はもう立派な殺人鬼だよ。
That wasn't a thing to say with a smile.
春明さん、ならないで。
I finally realized what that meant. Don't become like me. That's what you wanted to say, right? It was a well-placed warning, indeed. Unfortunately, back then, I not only missed it, but went on to become the absolute worst murderer I could think
春
of.
明さんが来たのは、メイコちゃんに次いで2度目の変化だった。振り出しも12時間くらい進んだし。
The night of May 11th, the day before the feast, as well as the day I got lost on my bike ride, Chimi went to prepare. That was the newest starting point, and the one she and I actually
初めは
shared.
何の期待もしてなかった。面白い人来たけど、かわいそうに。間宮さんたちみたいに死ぬだけだって。けど、なぜか春明さんが来てから変化が加速した。ずっと死ぬばかりだった間宮さんが生き残ったり、それでまた私が狼になったり、それに。
What?
なんでも。とにかく、そうこうしてたら橋本さんが生き残って、また配役が変わった。春ちゃんが狼の格好して工事現場に行くので大体わかった。
Oh yeah, since the wolves did their jobs when everyone was sheltering, anyone who stayed aside and watched would quickly know who they were.
春明さんはそれまでずっと人だったけど、狼になったら私みたいに狂っちゃう。だからあんなこと言ったんだ。
I didn't really want to remember that. Once I become a wolf, I tended not to be bound by Yasumizu's rules. In the end, I became an utter madman. And to make it worse, I ended up dancing on the palms of God's hands. Chimi words might have became a subconscious break for the madness racing within me. That was why her face came to mind whenever I was partaking in something really messed up. In a way, this reminded me of another mystery. Wait, how did you go outside back then?
単純に寮の2階で張りながら上がってくるワンコを全部撃ち殺してただけ。
Wait, what? You can beat the knight just like that? A gun is all you need?
いや、ただの時間稼ぎだよ。そうやってると、そのうち本物が出てくるから。
The real deal?
狼の頭と人間の体の。
That has to be the human wearing clothes. Like the ones given to the wolves.
人狼、人狼は、新内さんの手下で、狼様の使いかなんかだと思う。狼やったならあったでしょ、首吊り松の墓所でさ。あれが新内さん。で、実際に罰を下す怪物が人狼。あいつらは、人狼はいっぱいいる。
Shinai was Okami. Great Lord Shinai and Okami were the same thing. Mimiya said that too. 3 creatures who came to you in a dream. Besides them, there were lots of monsters who carried out their will. God had implied that the dogs, the bringers of corruption, were the servants of the badger. Using those werewolves as underlings might have been the power of Great Lord Shinai as Okami-sama. So even if you get rid of the bringers of corruption, you'll die when faced with that thing. Back to where we were talking about. Why did you decide to wait for us outside?
もうやめようと思ってさ。私、宴ではずっと一人ぼっちだったけど、ある人には何度も助けられてるんだ。
Me.
どっちかっていうと色々かき乱されて、いやぶっちゃけ春明さん絡みは死んでばっかだしな。
Sorry.
気にしないでいいよ。私も何回か春明さん殺してるし。
Really? Then I guess we're even.
春明さん、大概切り替え早いよね。さっきも別に落ち込んでなかったでしょ。
I'd only care about it if you did. Anyways, who's the
リカ
person?
子さんだよ。植松リカ子さん。
She helped you?
あの人は、本当に、心の底から藤吉村の人間なんだけど、藤吉村で一番いい人だよ。迷信に忠実で、保守的で、でも奥ゆかしくて、献身的。そして、よそ者や私みたいな外れ者とも対等に接してくれる。嫌悪せずに受け入れてくれる。藤吉の古き良きものなんてのがあったら、多分彼女がそれ。過去のいいところだけ寄せ集めたようなっていうか、春明さんも惚れたでしょ？
No, not really.
嘘ばっかり。ま、魅力的なのはわかるけどね。でも彼女は藤吉村じゃ異分子。
Even in Kami Fujiyoshi?
ええ。植松家は落ち目だったし、昔からちょっと特殊な家だってことはみんな知ってるわけでさ。見た目だって美人だけど変わってるし、性格も一見とっつきにくいからね。野里のボンクラくらいよ、彼女のファン。
Chimi grinned cruelly. She was pretty hard on him. I see. So why are you indebted to her?
いろいろだよ。宴の時にかばってくれたり、誰かが暴れて殺されそうになった時に、盾になって汚れを引き取ってくれたりね。
What do you mean?
覚えてるかな？このままの流れで、そのうち安水のおじいちゃんとモッチーが殺されるの。それで次の日、彼女は読み人になる。
Yeah, I do. You know something about it?
モッチーを殺したのはおじいちゃん。おじいちゃんを殺したのはちえみだよ。
Huh? I'm not surprised that you killed him, but the old wolf guy killed Mochi?
腹立つ。私も驚いたんだよ。二人が帰ってこないから手分けして探してたら、もうモッチーはやられてて。おじいちゃんは笑いながら私にも襲ってこようとした。だから、
時間が欲しい。
So he's planning on getting away if he lost the vote, even if it meant killing someone.
肝臓おじいちゃんはそうなることを恐れてたのかも。 だからじいちゃんが生きてる流れじゃ問答無用でくくってる。
Huh, but that's weird. Killing more than one per day or trying to run away means death.
そうだね。私が誰より知ってるよ。
How did he plan to avoid dying? Was he just not thinking about it?
私はだからボケててそこまで気が回らなかったんだと思うけどな。
Is that possible? Honestly, I couldn't help but feel like he'd chosen to kill out of malice. I really had to find a way to get some information out of him. Wait, more importantly, how did you survive after splashing a wolf
だから言
guy?
ったじゃん。リカ子さんが汚れを引き取ったって。
Huh? You mean she passed on the feast penalty to herself?
うん。あの時おじいちゃんをブッシュブッシュ殺した後で、ああやっちゃった、今回もダメかって思う。霧の中からリカ子さんが出てきてね。こっち見てびっくりしてたけど、あなたは死にません。あなたの罪も汚れも私
You sound just like her.
でしょ。こんなノリでいいのこの話。
The sullen mood had vanished, and we were now talking about this stuff over a few beers. I think it's fine we're not murderers yet, and let the past loops get to you, and you'll go nuts in no
ちえみ
time.
が死ぬほど悩んだことをめっささらっと片付けたね。まあオッケー、軽妙に行こう。とにかくその時はリカ子さんがかばってくれたから、私は服を買いに戻って、そこで春明さんと話したよね。
Who's there?
春明さん。
Wow, Chimi yet again? What a
何それ。
twist.
悪いけど今じっとしてて、ひょっとしたらやばいかも。
Huh? Hold on. Open up. Yeah, so you were changing out of your bloody clothes back then.
そうそう。あの私服お気になんで替えはあるしね。
Now that she mentioned it, I did feel like she said that. Anyways, you went against the 1 per day rule.
うん。私の経験じゃ例外なく、その日犯したルール違反はその流れ以外ではね。
And since Rikeko-san had taken it in, like she said, the corruption went to her. But wasn't she supposed to be torn apart?
あれは黄泉の汚れだよ。
Yomi's corruption.
最強の最悪の汚れ。触れれば読み人になってしまう。
Chimi was now acting afraid of something. Okay, I get why you feel indebted to Rikeko-san, why you wanted to give up on the feast and how you got here. Now for a more serious question. You probably won't like this, but it's necessary to get to the heart of the matter. Can you help me out? Of course, it's something you can't handle. You can just stop. Chimi, you are invested in something supernatural that the others here aren't. One of them is corruption and the other is God. Tell me about both.
春明さんはさ、死んでも記憶がある。だから嫌だよ。これから先ずっと嫌われる、気持ち悪がられるのは、ようやく見つかった理解者なのに。
It's fine. I didn't feel much about you being a murderer, right? It's fine.
絶対に嫌わない。
I promise. After a few seconds of hesitation, she finally gathered her resolve. And next time, we'll see. We'll see what that answer is. Thanks for watching.